Hello everyone and welcome back for another Trinity Stamps video. This is Cassie. Today we're going to be making a floating shaker card. If you don't know what that is, hang with me. So what we're using today is the Well Done stamp set. We're going to be making a baby card and we also have the matching dies to go with it. I also have the modern embossed rectangle and then I have several different embellishments. But we're going to get started making our background. I've got some Distress Oxide inks. I haven't done this in a hot minute and I'll tell you, I always love doing it. So I've got some Distress watercolor paper. I'm started off with some cracked pistachio, which I just put down on my little tonic mat, and then I spray it with water, and then I pounce my cardstock right into the color. The next color, which was Salvaged Patina. And this is one of those backgrounds or one of those techniques where you just keep working with it because eventually you'll be happy and you'll know, okay, time to stop. I wasn't happy with all the white that was showing through and I didn't want to just keep pouncing. So I have found that sometimes just bringing in like a blending brush along with the color and blending it into the white space really helps a lot. And then I'll go back to doing some of that ink smushing, putting that color on the mat, spray it with water, and then pounce in. And I do heat set in between. I also brought in some Distress Oxide spray, and that one is the cracked pistachio as well. I heat set that, and then I'm just dropping a little water on that, let that sit for a few seconds. Then I'll wipe it up, or just kind of blot it up with a microfiber cloth, and then heat set it again. Just keep working until you're happy with your background. For our stamping, I've got some Express It cardstock, and I'm going to take my little whale and we're going to stamp that down using some blackout ink. That is a Copic or alcohol marker friendly ink along with that paper. So I'm going to stamp that a couple times just to make sure that it is a good impression. And then we'll do our very simple coloring. I have 3 colors, and this is, I think, the BG34. I think I showed it and then edited that part out. But I'm just putting down my lightest color. I'm going to color the entire whale with this color. Kind of want him to match our background. He'll stand out because of all the black lines, but he's so cute. And then we have some BG34. That's going to be my mid-tone. I'll color his underbelly, that whole color. And I've seen this little whale colored all different kinds of colors, which is fun. Then we've got some BG49, and I'll bring that in as my darkest shade, put it in a few spots, and then I'm going to blend that out. I started with my lighter one, but I am going to bring in that mid-tone and blend that a little bit better, and then I'll bring in that lightest color again. So this was very simple coloring because our big thing is going to be the shaker. Once we're done with that, we'll bring in the matching die and run that through our die cutting machine. And then I will bring in a white gel pen just to add a few little dots, a few little details to him, and he'll be ready to go. So for my background, this is 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches, but I'm going to bring in that rectangle die. That's that modern embossed rectangle, and y'all know I love the modern embossed anything from Trinity Stamps. So I'm just going to tack that down with a little bit of mint tape, run that through my die cutting machine because I need a frame. And I want that frame to look almost seamless. So we've got our frame and our other background. And so you've got these 2 pieces and they have that beautiful embossed edge on all of those sides, which I just love. I'm going to take some 1/4 inch score tape and I'm going to run that all along our frame on the back. I'm going to need that because I'm going to use a piece of acetate. Well, actually in my case it is a transparency paper because it's a little cheaper. But before I put that transparency paper on, I am going to glue down this background to my card base. So that's just a white card base. And I'll just stick that down in between just to make sure that everything is lined up nicely. Once that is on there, then I can peel off all of that release paper on the back of our frame and I can attach down our transparency paper or your acetate, whatever it is that you have. I just found that transparency paper is a little bit cheaper. You can get it in bulk. And since I'm not doing any heat embossing on it ever, this works just fine for me. All right, so we'll tack that down. Then I need to add some foam tape to the back of it. So I just have a skinnier foam tape and it's perfect for shakers. And I'm just going to make sure that I butt that up against each side. So just in case, at this point, I wasn't sure if I wanted to add any glitter to it, but I decided not to in the end. You just want to make sure that everything is nice and tight in there. I said floating shaker, so what I'm doing is bringing in some invisible thread, and I like to double mine up disappears there for a minute. But to attach it to our whale, I did die cut out another whale, and I'm going to sandwich him, or sandwich this invisible thread in between our two little whales. So the die cut one and then the one that I have colored. And I'm going to bring in some glue in some of the areas where I didn't have tape. But this will make sure that that invisible thread isn't going to go anywhere, and it'll stay nice and tight in between our little whale. So love how that works. Now, my suggestion, because the whale just fits in there, is that if I had been thinking, I would have used a bigger card, like say a 5x7 or an A7. So if you're going to duplicate this card, I highly suggest using a bigger card base and bigger background. I'm just gluing down a few little embellishments. I want to make sure those don't go anywhere, and that's the fortune teller. So I've got a few of those put down. I'm also going to put in some sea breeze sequins, and then I'm also going to bring in some Itty Bitty White Stars. I'll just spoon a couple spoons of that in there. Typically when I make my shakers, I do use another piece of acetate, and I put that stuff inside the, basically make it like a little pocket. But because I want to add that whale in there, and I wanted to add some of those fortune teller embellishments to the background, I decided not to do that. So we're going to peel off our release paper. You saw I did use an anti-static powder tool on the edges and all on the inside because I didn't want any of those bits to just stick. And then I'm going to take my little whale and stick him down in there. I'm not doing it super tight. I want him to be a little bit loose so he will wiggle around. I'll peel off the rest of that release paper from my foam tape, and then this will be ready to stick down. So he kind of shifted a little bit, so I'm going to have to move him, and he's stuck. But this is another reason why I suggest using a bigger card base. This one works fine. It's just if it was a little bit of a headache trying to make sure that he didn't stick to any place and that he would still move a little bit freely. So he's in there, not snug, but he's in there a little tight. You'll see in the end that he does move around just fine. So making sure that that's all on there. And then I decide to bring in my liquid glue on that edge. That's just going to give me a little bit of wiggle room. So, and it'll also ensure that everything is nice and secure. It'll take a second to dry, but once it's on there, it's not going anywhere, and none of those bits will come out. So we'll just attach that down. Don't want to go too crazy with the shaking yet, but I am going to cut off the remaining invisible thread that was sticking out. Kind of see how he works, and he's flipping around, he's floating. And then we need to do our sentiment. So I've got some sentiment stock, and from Pear Blossom Press, and I also have my sentiment, which says welcome to the world, little one. How cute is that? I used an anti-static powder tool on that, and then I'm going to cover that with some white embossing powder, and then I will heat set that till that is smooth and melted. Love this sentiment stock for that, because it's such a crisp black and it's so smooth. And then I'll tack down my matching die, run that through my die cutting machine, and then we'll be ready to adhere this to the front of our card. I didn't do anything on the inside, probably should have done that ahead of time if I'd have been thinking, but there you have it. It is a floating shaker. By floating, it means our little whale just kind of floats around in there, and he kind of moves freely along with all the little shaker bits, but he's still connected. So if you like this video, be sure to hit that like button, and definitely consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. And be sure to check out all that Trinity Stamps has going on over on their blog, Facebook page, and Instagram for more crafty inspiration. Thanks for stopping by, and I hope you have a great day.